We've got a few things that I wanted to focus on in today's forecast, so thanks for joining me here today on this Sunday, January 28th. If you recall, in my last video, I explained how an extreme weather pattern will take shape across Europe, and it does look like this is occurring as a very robust high-pressure area has overtaken the majority of mainland Europe. This has led to well above average temperatures and a lack of precipitation for some areas, especially around Iberia. Let's take a look at what the satellite imagery is showing as of Sunday evening. Much of Europe is relatively calm now, but we're seeing a pretty big system in between Iceland and Norway, and I'll talk more about that later in the video. Another thing to take note of, which may not be too noticeable, is what we have over Eastern Europe, and it's actually a dip in the jet stream. This is allowing for colder air to move southward towards those warmer waters around Egypt, Israel, and Syria, and as you'll see later in this video, that's going to help kickstart a small low-pressure system. Now we're going to see how things will unfold as we go forward in time, and the reason why we are focusing this far north is because that high pressure system that is taking over much of Europe is redirecting the biggest storm systems very far to our north, and you can see the first of many storms off the coast of Iceland here. You'll recall that we saw this system on the satellite imagery moments ago, and as it moves north and east parallel to the Norwegian coast within the next day or two, it looks to strengthen quite a bit, possibly getting down to 930 millibars. And the greatest impacts look likely in very far northern areas of Norway as the southern fringe of that low pressure system moves by. But perhaps an even more impactful storm system is on the way, and it's currently over the northeastern United States. Watch as it crosses the Atlantic Ocean over the coming days before reaching Iceland by the last day of January. Around this time is when we really expect it to strengthen rapidly, before possibly gaining bomb cyclone criteria just prior to its landfall on Norway late on January 31st into the first day of February. This system may bring very heavy snowfall and extremely strong winds, especially to Norway, so I really think we need to be watching this system. Then once that storm is out of the way, it looks like the first few days of February will be characterized by continued heavy rain and snow across Scandinavia, and you can see that here as all this activity streams off the Atlantic. We may see a third very intense storm within this activity a few days into February, but that's still a little uncertain at this time, but I'll keep an eye on those trends as we go forward. Over Iberia, it looks like the pattern is still very dry for the foreseeable future, as I unfortunately expected, so we frankly don't have anything to talk about down there other than the well above average temperatures. I still think that a very drastic change is in the realm of possibility around the middle of February for this region, so definitely stay tuned for updates on that. And then for the rest of mainland Europe, despite that high pressure zone, there will be moments when rain and snow can move through, associated with those systems bashing into Iceland and Scandinavia. One area that is going to be of special interest over the next few days is going to be around Southeast Europe into the Middle East. We have a trough over that region now, bringing scattered rain showers and some thunderstorms, but we're going to see something spin up around Cyprus by January 29th. It's a little hard to spot, but if you look closely, you can see some spinning action as a weak low pressure tries organizing over the next few days. This will bring continued rain, storms, and mountain snowfall before dissipating within the first few days of February. Here's an update on the snowfall totals for the next 5 days, and as we would expect, it's going to be pretty scarce across much of mainland Europe, except for far northern and eastern areas. The snowiest places are going to be especially the mountainous areas of southeastern Europe, especially around Turkey, but if we look further north, it's going to be the complete opposite with very heavy snowfall across Norway and Iceland. Wind is going to be another big risk with those storms in addition to snowfall, so let's take a look at that starting on January 28th. Strongest winds are likely in the orange shade, but we're going to see that confined to the open waters. But if we go into the 29th, we can see that become much more widespread across northern Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Jumping to January 31st, we see another wave of yellow showing up from Iceland into Norway and Sweden as that next system moves in, so those areas should be ready for some very strong wind gusts. And then lastly, by the first day of February, we're going to see that storm move inland, affecting Finland and the Baltic countries more heavily. Now, one last thing I wanted to briefly discuss for Europe is the temperatures. Just look at how much of the European continent is seeing above normal temperatures, even as far north as the Nordic countries. Once again, this is one of the aspects of this extreme weather pattern that I talked about for a few days now. The only area that will be escaping those above normal temperatures is actually going to be Southeast Europe, since we do have that cutoff low keeping things wet and cooler than normal. But for everyone else, we're going to be dealing with those abnormally high temperatures for quite some time. I'm sure at this point, many of you are asking when we're going to see some changes, probably asking questions like when are colder temperatures and snowfall returning, and who is going to be impacted by these changes the most. Those are questions that I will be answering in an upcoming forecast. So if you want to see all of my latest forecasts, remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.